Hello, soul being absolutely beautiful every time. It's your host, Sweet Venus, on the mothership. So, welcome to part 4 of the Soul Structure series. So, in the previous part, I got cut off and I finished everything in the description box if you hadn't noticed. And we're going to continue from where we left off. So in part 1, 2, and 3, we spoke about the 3 pillars of your soul structure. And the first one is energetic sovereignty. The second one is inner union. The third one is ancestral technologies. So as you might have noticed in part 3, you could actually see the intersection between energetic sovereignty and inner union, how it's connected, how you receive yourself determines how you actually can fulfill your needs and desires. You can actually become emotionally intelligent to the point where you dial in with precision on where your soul actually wants to go. Not the wounded self, but the real self. So it's about knowing where you end in the external world and where the world ends within you. It's about really clarifying where that enmeshment with the world happens, and actually creating a lifestyle that protects you from being enmeshed with the world, and actually gives everyone who comes into your world free will to be who they truly want to be. So in the Neville Goddard community, there's a lot of beliefs that we do not have free will. I'm the main character. Everybody else doesn't have free will. And that doesn't leave any room for anybody to act in their own autonomy and to actually show you who they truly are, who they're choosing to be. Because if you're imposing your will on other people, there's no difference between you and a dictator. But when you know that everybody has free will, when you choose to give everybody else free will, there's no fear of abandonment, right? There's no fear of other people truly showing you who they truly are. There's no needing to enforce your preferences and your desires, because you're like, you know what? I'm always going to get what I want anyway. And you can too. There's no need to control other people. So energetic sovereignty is all about being fully aware of your shadows and your light and being comfortable with them, right? So when you're doing that, it's going to feel really you're going to have a lot of ego deaths, and that's the whole point, because you came here without an ego, right? And you're going to die without an ego. And ego is just your sense of self that you project into the world, right? But you want to create a sense of self that is actually healthier, that's in alignment with your soul blueprint, that is not going to get in the way of your soul blueprint. We want to alchemize those egos you've created, your sense of self you want to be perceived by the world, to actually inform you on why that sense of self was created, so that you can actually create a toolkit that supports you to pivot when your wounded self tries to compensate for whatever is lacking within, right? So we're not doing this out of shaming or judging. We're doing this out of being informed about what's truly going on within. And when you do that, you start realizing that you're becoming whole. You're becoming more in tune with your center. So even when people don't show up the way you want them to, and you notice you're like, ooh, I don't like how this feels, that's information, right? That's information to come back within and really check in with yourself. Like, why is it such a big deal? Why do I need to force this person to come this way, to act this way, why do I only feel worthy when somebody shows up like ABC, and I don't feel worthy when they don't show up like this? Because these positive values that you want, right? Worthiness, being desired, being pursued, being chosen, being it, making it, being successful, being the one, right? Being the person, being a goat. There are certain values. There's aspects of your inner child that are missing, that you're seeking from outside of yourself. So when you pay attention, like, okay, I am waiting for all of this until I get the money, until I get the babe, until I get the guy, until it looks like this, until I get the followers. That's when I'll start feeling like this. There's a void there that you're not feeling right now, that you're keeping you away from yourself right now. And you really want to pay attention, like, why am I creating more void? Why am I attaching this to only external circumstances? Because if you're only attaching it to external circumstances, it becomes a performance. It's not true union. It's not having a true connection to yourself. You're not really living life. You're performing your life. And yeah, it's a very threatening realization to come to, because it threatens to shake everything false, all the false illusions in your life, everything that you've created from falseness. It crumbles, and then you're exposed, you're vulnerable. And we do not like to be vulnerable. We do not like to be exposed. We do not like to be perceived as less than this image that we like to be perceived as, and that's natural. But for you to be in integrity with your soul blueprint, you gotta be willing to let all of that fall down, to let all that is not true to dissolve, so that you can actually make room and space for what is actually of you, that is actually within your divine blueprint. So soul blueprint and divine blueprint are different. Divine blueprint is what we're aiming for. Soul blueprint is actually what you are in each moment you are pivoting into, right? So we have been programmed to be this avatar, right? This avatar you've been programmed to because of your negative experiences, because of your trauma. You created a false sense of self for survival. And once you transmute, as you're transmuting that, you're transmuting it from your soul blueprint. And as you're transmuting it from your soul blueprint, you're now doing the practice to embody your divinity. Your divinity is when you're like in full union with God. There's no echo between you and God, right? So right now, we hear our higher self's voice, that tiny little voice, right, that I spoke about, I believe in part 2, speaks to us, right? Our higher self, the unconditionally loving voice, the voice, your intuition, the voice that is in union with all your desires, that already has everything, right? That sees that the grand scheme of everything, like, okay, because we're having a human experience and there's gravity, there's going to be some delay, there's going to be 30 days before you get your stuff, there's going to be 5 years before you get your stuff, because you got to learn this so you can reframe your mind, and so you can shed off these stories that are preventing you from actually experiencing what you truly want, right? So that's your soul blueprint, actually helping you stay in alignment with what is good for you. So embodying your divinity blueprint, it's living in union with God in each moment. You don't need anything, right? There's no desire for anything, because you understand the mechanics of creation within yourself. You understand yourself inside and out. When you have that craving, like, oh, I'm craving that because I'm feeling uncomfortable with this emotion, and this emotion is tied to that memory in my childhood. And I use sugar to numb it, right? There's that precision, there's that you're just high off life in the present moment. There's no need to find wholeness outside of yourself. There's no need to steal from others so that you can become successful. There's none of that is there. You've transmuted that and you've become whole. You're now living in heaven on earth. So there are stages to this. But we want to make sure that you actually understand how you're showing up in each moment, in your as a human, in union with your soul. And that's the inner union, right? It's actually not making where you are wrong, not making your human wrong, and not making the disconnection between your human and your soul wrong. It's in understanding that the negative aspects actually give you content, give you information, so that you're actually informed on how to change route, change direction in the future, right? So for example, if you hadn't fallen off your bike, you wouldn't know that in the future, if I'm starting to fall, how do I stop it, right? Because you don't have that muscle memory. So you want to have these negative experiences, these failures, so that you have a contrast to refer to as you're clarifying what's in alignment with your soul blueprint. So there's no negative experiences, there's no bad stuff. Yes, you feel these negative emotions tied to these negative experiences, but in the grand scheme, your soul doesn't care about how it looks to society, how it looks to other people, how other people perceive you, because it understands in the grand scheme that you're actually learning something that benefits your higher self, that benefits your future self. So it doesn't really have these ego deaths, but your human self is actually having these ego deaths because it has been conditioned to perceive itself a certain way, to fit into a box. So once you start understanding this, your ego deaths become less intense, less painful, less humiliating. It's more of like, I don't like this, or I'm dying out of these previous perception of myself, these previous belief systems. But it doesn't mean that you're less than because you're going through these negative experiences, or because you're not living up to societal's standards. It just means that you're breaking out of this cycle of perceiving yourself as less than because you don't fit into this box. So the more you become sovereign energetically, the easier it becomes for you to make your pivots, because you're not using all this mental energy to judge yourself, to work against yourself, because you're actually feeding into the pendulums. I forgot his name, I forgot his name, this Russian dude. He talks about pendulums. He's like the Neville Goddard, but in Russia. Man, if anyone knows, please write it down below. But like when you have these negative thoughts that you actually don't want, and you're resisting those, that's what we call pendulums, right? These momentum of thoughts that comes for you when somebody doesn't show up the way you want them to, and then you start this thought pattern, and then it goes on for hours until you stop it, right? But we want to train you so that you actually become aware of the thought as it starts, so that you can actually pivot as it starts, so that you can kill the momentum of YouTube. So you can stop you can stop the momentum as soon as it begins, and you can pivot into more positive thoughts, so you can reframe quicker, because the sooner you master this, the easier your life will become. It's less struggle, because the struggle and the suffering comes from actually feeding these momentums that actually don't make you feel good, that actually don't empower your most authentic self. So you want to be on the side of your most authentic self no matter what. That is the cheat code. You want to be on the side of your most authentic self no matter what. So always find a reframing mind that's actually in integrity with the truth, right? Where you're not bypassing and gaslighting yourself and spiritualizing it, and being all positive. We're actually looking at it from truth. And truth, again, from the previous parts, we talk about truth is in your emotion, right? It's not in trying to control from your mind. It's actually in feeling the truth and actually witnessing and holding space for your most authentic self, allowing yourself to be very vulnerable and experiencing life through your most authentic self, and not making how your most authentic self is experiencing life wrong, by seeing it as an opportunity to to mold yourself in alignment with your soul blueprint. So you're not working against your most authentic self, you're working with your most authentic self. So that's how inner union works. And we're going to go deeper in the next parts. But I wanted you to understand this nuance. And it's, for example, in that previous video, right? You could have resisted and be like, oh my gosh, she's saying so much arms. Or you could just have detached from the arms and just received the message the way it was meant to come across, right? You are in union with this, not resisting it, just allowing it to be. So it's when you impose your resistance, when you impose your preferred way of things working out, that's when you actually come out of union with it. Union is all about joining, just being one with the present moment. Being present and allowing the presence to expand your awareness. And when you're not in union with your most authentic self, you're projecting your preferred perceptions of yourself, your fantasized, your most idealized self, or your future self. You're not in union with your most authentic self. And that's why, like, when you're trying to manifest, to catch up to your idealized self, to your most to your fantasy self, to these self that is based on falsehood, because you're not working with your most authentic self. You're abandoning your most authentic self. And that's why when you manifest these things from this state, it never fulfills you. And it's always more painful, because you're not present. You're not coming back within yourself and actually coming full circle within yourself and really pay attention, like, where am I manifesting these things from? Where am I desiring this from? What am I seeking through this relationship? Is this relationship really good for me? Is this person really who I want them to be? Or are they not for me? Right? You want to ask yourself these questions. You play around with these questions so that you can actually, because you always know. But because we over rely on this, we want to know everything logically. We always want to have things our way. We give too much power to this. We live in here, but you want to come back into your body. You want to come back to your 5 senses and just be present with yourself. Because here in stillness, the truth is always there. The truth is always there. Yeah, that's truth. Right there. So once after this video is finished, just hold space for this part of you and pay attention to the parts that you're still resisting, that you're not in union with, that you're not working with, that you're actually resisting, that you've been compensating with something outside of you, with relationships, with connections, with social media, with music, with a fake life, whatever it is. Pay attention to those parts that have been abandoned. And we're not doing this from shaming, from judging, from criticizing, or from like, oh my gosh, why did I do this? No, it's just holding space. Unconditional love, remember? And notice how much you can lean in, because this will tell you your emotional capacity to hold space for those parts of you. And pay attention to your emotional capacity, and that emotional capacity will tell you where you actually want to do work, to where you want to prioritize work. And I always recommend EFT. EFT is game changer, changed my life, right? It always helps you to clear all these parts of you that are making it impossible for you to expand your capacity to receive more positive, genuinely positive emotions, not these fake ones, right? Genuine positive emotions where you're just happy for no reason, where you're just joyful for no reason, right? Where right? You're indifferent, but it's not coming from feeding these negative thoughts because, oh, my life doesn't look like this. Oh, I thought I'll be here by now, right? This is just the false idealized self that is manufactured by the wounded ego, and we want to actually integrate that into your true self, and we're gonna go more into that in the next video. So see you on the other side.